And welcome to another episode of Football the Pod. I'm your host, Commissioner Ben. All right, welcome to Football the Pod, Season 4, Episode 13. Somehow we are aligned on episodes once again with the end of the actual fantasy week because we just finished Fantasy Week 13 as well. It is the first day of December, Monday night, which means we really just did finish Monday Night Football. And you know what they say, it's the first day of December. Fantasy football playoffs are coming. And man, does it feel like winter, because every team seemed to shrivel up and die this week, as this was one of the lowest scoring weeks of the season with absolutely no one popping off. I guess none of us could make proper start-sit decisions with no teams on bye. Too many decisions to make, so we all made the wrong ones. We will get into that, of course. But first, it is time for Just a Tip with Commissioner Ben. All right, well, today's tip, since we cannot make good start-sit decisions, since it is now crunch time, it is time for some matchup deep dives. I'm not going to give you specific stats, but just know that there are many advanced stats that you can look up out there for individual team and player performances to try to know who to start and sit when single games matter a ton, like they will next week in week 14 and then in the playoffs, where every game is basically do or die. That means you really do need to do your research. There's so much info out there. I can't do it all for you, but take a look at some more interesting, let's say, team stats that I haven't highlighted at all. For example, is your team playing against the Bengals? If so, play your tight end against them, because they are the worst team in the NFL by far this year against tight ends, giving up huge games this past week to Isaiah Likely, who hasn't had a good game all year, and then that massive game 2 weeks ago to Hunter Henry, as just two recent examples. But if you go back and look at all the previous games, tight ends have crushed the Bengals all year. That's one example. A different type of example. Don't have any good defense or special teams options left to play, but want some high upside. Target teams who just simply pass the ball a lot more, since those passing plays are the ones that lead to defensive points like sacks and interceptions. If you're just running the ball all the time, maybe you get a fumble, but really those are not the plays that generate points for defenses. So the teams that passed the most this year are Cincinnati and Tennessee, each passing on 2/3 of their plays, which is 10% higher than the NFL median. On the other hand, Seattle is passing on less than half of their plays, the only team below 50%. So you can target defenses against Cincinnati and Tennessee. You already knew that probably. And you probably don't want to play defenses against Seattle, even though, Sam Darnold seems to be turning over the ball more. General stats like that can be real helpful. And this can maybe help make some of those more nitpicky decisions. But of course, nothing is ever better than vibes. And that was just a tip with Commissioner Ben. All right, we are back with a guest this week. Nothing better than a fan reaching out to provide their insights for the show. Step it up, people. We need a playoff preview guest next week. But I digress. This league member has stepped up once again, back for the second time this year to share their hot takes and heartbreaks. Let's welcome back onto the pod, Mr. Nick Whiffin. Nick, how's it going?
Never been better, Ben.
Oh, wow. That's great to hear.
Yeah, you gassed me up pretty good there. That was, you know what? I reached out last week and I hoped I'd be a part of the pod. And sure enough, you had an opening for me. And I was just happy to make plans ahead of time. So for those of you out there, it feels really good to just plan a week ahead and just reach out and message Ben.
That's right. You get to spend some time with your beloved commissioner, get the hangouts before and after the pod. I mean, all the chit-chat that goes on during, beyond, after, before and after. I don't even know what I'm saying. See, it's way more fun when we're not even recording. There's no reason not to come on, but we're here right now. We're not talking about the future. Let's get on to the fantasy week. Thank you for joining. Very much appreciate the planning. Nothing more that I like than a nicely filled calendar, let me tell you. Okay. We've got one trade that never got reviewed. The last trade of the year to finish off this year's trades. And this one was fittingly involving you and your brother, our trade champ of the year. Mike sent you Chris Godwin, who's been injured all year, and Marvin Harrison Jr. has been injured for a couple weeks. Well, not really injured, but he got his appendix pulled out. Yeah. And you sent Quinshawn Judkins, the rookie running back from Cleveland. 2 wide receivers for running back. Nick, 1 week later, tell us, did you win this trade?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, Quinshawn Judkins has been fine all year. And Marvin Harrison and Chris Godwin have been, Marvin Harrison has shown. I mean, Marvin Harrison is one of the dudes. Should be the wide receiver 1 for his team. And yeah, he's been injured, and he came into this game and they got injured partway through. So it's like, I think it should be fine for both of us going forward. Quinshawn Judkins, I saw, got 15.9 points for Mike this week. Marvin Harrison got 12 something. But I needed wide receivers. Mike needed guys who could play now. And I think, honestly, it was a win for both sides, if I'm being completely honest about it. But I could be biased towards myself. So what do you think, Ben? Do you think that was a fair trade?
You know what? I think that was a completely fair trade. Yep. Chris Godwin, I mean, he's really he was a roster clogger at least. It looks like they probably do need him on Tampa Bay. He got 10 points this week. If he's actually getting healthy, he could be quite good in the fantasy playoffs, especially with Emeka Egbuka doing terrible of late in the past, 8 games or so. And, Quinshawn Judkins is going to get you those points every week. This is the most promising week for him because he finally started catching passes. He was out there for like over 10% of the routes run, which is his season high this week. He caught 3 passes that he, without even getting a touchdown, he got 15 points, and he's needed touchdowns to get those points. So he's going to be a solid RB2 the rest of the year. But Marvin Harrison with Jacoby Brissett, if he had not gotten injured this week, that would be Marvin Harrison. Then he would have had another at least a couple more catches. So as long as he is not injured, and as long as Jacoby Brissett is playing, I like Marvin Harrison too the rest of the year. So
I'll add to that because Baker. So like going back to the Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka thing. It's tough when you just have one wide receiver on the field who's like a competent wide receiver. When you have a second one out there, it not only opens up the first one theoretically a little more, but it opens up the second one. It just opens up your offense a little bit. So I thought that Chris Godwin coming back might be beneficial to all of the parties involved. So I was thinking that
I would hope so. Yes.
Yeah.
With everybody coming back. Yep. I certainly need it. Hey, Mike Evans could be back next week, and then the whole band is back together, and then they'll all be having some fun again. I mean, you want Baker to start doing a little better as well. But there you go. You know what? We closed it out with a totally fair trade. I think this year was filled with completely even trades. Nobody got completely ransacked. It was all happening. I guess, you know what? Since almost all but one of them involved Mike did send off some pretty funky ones, but in the end, they were all nice, fair trades that he made. So well done. A record 8 trades. If you win nothing else, that will go down in the record books until you try and beat it next year. So sadly, it didn't turn around Mike's injury-plagued season, but maybe a massive week this upcoming week will still be enough to let him sneak into the playoffs. All right, let's get into our main segment, the week in review. And we start off, of course, with, the low score of the week and how the mighty fall. Our current league reigning champ was looking good 3 weeks ago until his season took a complete dive bomb. The first member of our triple poop club this year with a brutal score of 62 points, the second lowest score on the season, just beating out his 55 points from 2 weeks ago. For the third week in a row, the Poopy Football Award goes to Big Aaron. Wow, that is all I can say. I think we'll be getting a new champ this year.
That is stinky, brother.
Yeah. I mean, that's that Lamar Jackson confidence coming back to haunt you late in the year. But hey, please find that fake $10 in your account. It's already there. Moving on, the high score in a year where not much has gone right. Everyone should still get a chance for a win. And so, for the first time on the year, congratulations to this week's champion. I can't believe it myself, but congratulations goes out to Brent with a score of 145.06. This was our lowest scoring champ of the week score, but a champ is still a champ, and $10 is $10. Nicely done, all the way from Mexico. Maybe you just needed some nice relaxation to close out the week finally. All right, congrats to both of you. Let's get into those breakdowns as we head over to the screen share. As always, watching and listening, we'll highlight the key points, but you'll also see them right here. So let's get over to it. Zooming in, starting off with the first matchup on my screen, which is, of course, myself against the Gritty Committee, Brandon's team. And we start off right away with the matchup that finished with a differential of less than 4 points for the tight butthole matchup of the week. And sadly, for me, it was also a victory for Brandon. You just had to let me down on my birthday with that damn long overtime on Sunday Night Football. I thought I had it. I thought I had pulled out the win, but then RJ Harvey got a rushing touchdown, and I was still going to be fine. But then somehow the game goes late into overtime with like 2 minutes left. They couldn't get a passing touchdown, and then RJ Harvey runs it in again for his second touchdown of the game to finish me off. I just barely could not hold on. What do we even say about this otherwise? RJ Harvey ended up being Brandon's second highest scorer on the week to only his kicker. That is what the week is that we are dealing with. The kicker, Evan McPherson, was Brandon's true victor. And that the whole differential is almost the difference between his kicker and my kicker. Jason Myers with 20 points, the top two kickers on the week. What a ridiculous week. Jason Myers was my top point scorer. Look at this. Kickers were two of the top three scoring players in this entire matchup, which is a ridiculous matchup. Over here on my side, I got Justin Herbert, who just had hand surgery. Who knows if he can play again. Emeka Egbuka, who's had, like I said, a whole bunch of less than 10-point weeks in a row. At least the Cincinnati Bengals are firing, and Bucky Irving came back. But A.J. Barner, who had to pull off the waiver wire last second because Dalton Kincaid can't play. But you know what? I deserve this loss. I'm kicking myself. Didn't even matter that it was my birthday. I couldn't make the right decision. I played Woody. I'm like, do I want to play Woody Marks? I don't know. I guess I'll go 4 running backs to try it out. If I had played any one of my wide receivers other than Parker Washington, I would have been fine. They all got touchdowns. I was going to play Jacoby Myers. I decided not to. Stupid me. I deserve this loss. I'm surprised Brandon didn't play Devin Neal, but hey, he got his guys. I mean, Ricky Pearsall is not looking good. Another 3 points. Even Puka Nacua had his low scoring week, and I couldn't take advantage of it. All right. That's it. That's all I'll say about this one. Nick, we are doing something interesting this week. Mr. Whiffin, I should call you, in fact. So, in terms of the teacher, Mr. Whiffin, give us your analysis of Commissioner Ben and the Gritty Committee.
All right, so what I'm going to be doing, I just wrote report cards recently for the midterms. And so I've got like, I've got in my brain just like how to describe students. And so I thought about you guys as students and which students you would be like. So Ben, yourself, you are a big Millie. Millie is someone who is just like, so she has excellent learning skills. Is already pretty good at math and works super hard and like always asks questions. Always. So even when it's like, she'll just like, she won't even put up her hand. She'll just ask a question. And just to make sure she gets it. So she wasn't dealt the best hand at the beginning. I'm not going to say she's the best math student, but looking back at your draft, you don't have a lot of the players that you had at the draft. So you didn't have the best draft, and yet you've worked and you've studied and you understand the task. And now you're just being successful. This week accepted. You know, you get the odd bad quiz or test, but for the most part, you're a Millie. Brandon, on the other hand, he's like a low 80s student to me.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. He puts enough effort in to get a level 4, but he lacks that real like thinking and understanding and effort portion that get him to a level 4+,
Oh yeah,
which is what we
the
would
dreaded 4
put in
plus.
the
That's right.
90s areas. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with you two. You're a big Millie. He's an Annalise. Annalise.
Classic Annalise. I knew it.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, he's an Annalise. Fine, doing great, but could be better. But it's just not there yet. So I need to see a little more from Brandon to get him to that 90s level.
I agree. Yeah, to push over the edge, yeah, a little bit more from both of us, really. But yeah, Annalise did more than enough this week, just barely.
Yeah.
Great analysis. Let's see what's. I don't even want to go these matchups. I just want to hear what's coming up next. So I'll just go through it quickly. Let's jump on to our second matchup. We had Mike against Christine with a 125-101 victory for Mike, who actually is picking up a little bit of steam to end off the year. As we take a look at this one, I mean, all right, these are all pretty low scoring, like I said, but if you just scroll down a little bit farther, if you're looking out on the screen here, there are no 20-point scorers in this entire matchup. However, there was a 30-point scorer, and that was the Seattle defense, by far the highest scoring any position in this matchup, with a complete shutout over Minnesota, 4 interceptions and a touchdown and a bunch of sacks that didn't even make it onto this stat line here. That was the difference. 30 points to 5 for the defense. Otherwise, looking at these rosters, they're both completely mediocre. Not much happening. At least Christine remembered to start Kyle Monangai, who's looking on fire. That Chicago running game is just absolutely unbelievable. Quinshon Judkins, like we talked about before on Mike's side, that 3 reception, 90 rushing yards, 15.9 points. That was his second highest rostered scoring player. And the great decision to start Jalen Coker. What a smart start. I don't know how you pulled that one off, but Jalen Coker had his first big game of the year. I was stashing him for a while. If we go over and look at the bench here, any big mistakes coming up on the bench? I mean, not really. You weren't going to start Trevor Lawrence over Jackson Dart. Maybe you should have coming back. But now Christine's got Devin Singletary, who's going to be on bye this week. But it looks like Tyrone Tracy just got hurt. Christine, I mean, I imagine you want to start Joe Burrow at some point. He is on your IR. You're going to have to pull him off. And he did a lot better than Caleb Williams. But, all around, this just comes down to the defense. And defense wins championships, which is what Mike hopes he had told himself 10 weeks ago. Nick, what do you think of the Kittle Titty Committee and je ne sais quoi in terms of Mr. Whiffin?
Well, first of all, that's got to be one of like the highest scoring defense scores of the year, right?
Yep.
Like 30 points is.
Oh yeah.
It might be the top one of the year.
It probably is. There's very few shutouts. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I have Saquon Barkley on Christine's side in another league, and it's not been pretty. Him and Jalen Hurts have been stinky a lot of weeks.
Disappointing draft pick.
Yeah. But in any case, Christine is someone I'm reminded of a Kiara I had last year. Kiara was someone she didn't really care about math, but her parents told her that it was important, and they were pretty effective at it. And so she would do like the odd assignment here and there. She would read the odd article or read the odd, like, I don't know, presentation slideshow I gave them. And she got a 60 and she was fine with that. I would put Christine about there in terms of our fantasy football achievement.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Starting Emmanuel Wilson, that's Josh Jacobs is back. What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, like Christine puts in some work, but it's only because someone else is telling her to. She doesn't really care. Mike is a big Quentin. So I teach a student Quentin who has taken grade 9 math twice already, and he's in grade 11 now. And this year, he is just absolutely focused. Now, by the way, I might not be using real names. Super focused, and you know what? He's a very enthusiastic, positive kid. He's trying all these things. He's doing homework. He's just had trouble with math in the past, but you know what? He's trying absolutely everything to pass, and he's earning in the 60s as well. So you know what? I don't know. Quentin, Kiara, they're both getting in the 60s. two different approaches, but I like them both.
I love it. That sounds exactly correct. I mean, Mike made a lot of stuff happen. He certainly changed around his style this year, but it hasn't completely converted yet. Sounds a lot like a Quentin. I agree.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our third matchup of the week, where, well, we already know Brent against Jason. Jason was our high score of the week. It was also the blowout of the week, with Brent taking this one down 145 to 103. This one, well, the first round picks of Brent finally paying off. He took Nico Collins in the first round. He took AJ Brown in the second round. And he took Jordan Love in the third round. All great picks at the time, I'm sure. And they all came through this week. This was one of Nico Collins' best game of the year. This was AJ Brown's best game of the year. And Jordan Love, I mean, I'm just making this up. I assume this is all of their best games of the year, at least very close to it. Combining these three players for 85 points, more than 85, almost 90 points. And that was what Brent needed. I mean, almost those three players were more than enough to just take down Jason, who had DeAndre Swift, the other side of the Chicago Bears running game that's just been on fire lately, 40 points between their two running backs. And James Cook, who's turned it around in the last couple weeks, even though he tried to trade him away. But the rest of the players that Jason has traded for, I mean, Michael Pittman is just, this was the weak part of the Indianapolis schedule. This is why you did not want to trade for Indianapolis players for this stretch of a few games. The playoff schedule gets easier, but not when you needed points to make the playoffs now. And Sam Darnold, I mean, if he's not throwing touchdowns, he's going to have really bad fantasy weeks. At least Gordon Sutton came back and got you 17 points. But I mean, on Brent's side, Alec Pierce, one of the pickups of the year, having him on the starting lineup and having the best pick of the year, obviously the best kicker in the league, still only getting you 13 points. You're no Evan McPherson out here, but at the same time, you still have to start Xavier Legetts and the benches. I am disappointed that Kayshon Boutte did not get a start. But you know what? That's how it works. You got your top players finally firing for you. How does that turn around and amount to Mr. Whiffin picks, Nick?
Yeah, okay. Well, looking at Brent's side, so he's a big Xavier. Xavier is someone who's earning a passing grade, but he could do better. But he's really mostly concerned about looking cool. He wears chains to class.
Oh, I've seen Brent like that.
Yeah. So Brent drafted all Green Bay Packers. He doesn't care about winning. He just cares about kind of looking cool and pretending like he doesn't care. So that's where
I've seen him. He cares. Oh, he cares. It's a farce.
Okay. Man. Yeah, you know what? Xavier cares too, but he won't let it show in front of the rest of the class.
Good,
right? Like that's where we're at right here. Brent needs to be comfortable letting it show that he cares about fantasy football in front of the rest of the class, aka us. So on the other side, Jason. So I have a girl in my class right now, Lily, who failed my class last year, and she's back again this year, and she's probably gonna fail again.
That's nice. She just wants to be with you so much.
Yeah, no, I don't think she wants that. But yeah, I think Jason might be a Lily. Like he's giving it his best shot, but he just doesn't really understand how to win fantasy football. And so that's where I think we're at with Jason. No offense, Jason.
You know what, Jason? I don't think Jason has ever come in the top 3. I could say top 4, but I mean, I'm almost positive Jason is not coming in the top 3. In fact, I know he hasn't come in the top 3.
He's made the playoffs, though?
He has made the playoffs before,
okay.
Yes. Yeah. Every now and then he's made the playoffs, once or twice. But
okay. Sorry, Jason, I take that back. Every once in a while you pass a course. You're not full Lily.
Maybe this year is the year. Maybe a miracle will happen. If not, set up that strategy through the fantasy playoffs in the bottom half in the toilet bowl to get that strategy set for next year. Let's move on to the fourth matchup where we had Daniel against Cassie. And this truly was a week where underdogs just ruled as Cassie's last place Handsomer boys overpowered Daniel's first place team 122 to 96. And, all I'll say is if you look at this lineup, we had the sun god Amon-Ra St. Brown on Daniel's side, projected for 23.85 points if you trust Yahoo. And that add those points on, that would have made this matchup incredibly close. But instead, he finished with 0 because he got injured and was out early on in the game. He could be out 1, 2, 3 weeks. Is Daniel's team going to be able to survive missing his top player? He's got Brock Bowers coming back. Brock Bowers had that incredible catch, 2 touchdowns for Daniel's highest scoring player at 22 points. But with Jalen Hurts giving you good but not great weeks every week, same with Ashton Genty, just manageable. I don't know if Daniel is going to have the star power without Amon-Ra St. Brown coming through. However, he's got Wan'Dale Robinson, who could get a lot of catches. Looking over at Cassie's side, I mean, we all know how the season has gone for Cassie. She has ridden with Patrick Mahomes all year, who has been a fantastic quarterback. He was the top quarterback this week, and nothing really much of significance otherwise on Cassie's roster. Derrick Henry now continues to plod, but I mean, Cassie, looking at this, I mean, Jacoby Brissett, I wish he was on my roster. Anyways, we will leave it at that. We don't have to say much more about Cassie's team. Good for you getting the win. Mr. Whiffin, what's your analysis?
Yeah. So Daniel seems like a student who, in the past, like if I recall correctly, Daniel has done super well in the past. I think I could be wrong in some cases, but it seems like a student who wasn't good because he was bored, sort of thing. And now that it's getting a little interesting, he started trying. I think he was only acting out before. I give him a Jasper, not one of my students, but Jasper, our mutual friend Ben.
Oh, it's similar to one of your students, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, for Daniel, this is, you know what? If your players are going to have a bad week, it's good that they all have it in the same week, and so that's what I give to Daniel here. Cassie, in terms of fantasy football, on the year in a whole, Cassie's one of the kids in my class I would maybe recommend move to a different stream of class. Like we're in like the academic situation. Cassie is someone in terms of fantasy football, not in terms of math, who I'd maybe refer to like a special education like classroom. She doesn't try. And has a basic misunderstanding about fantasy football. She's made 10 moves this year and has achieved about 400 fewer points than the top scorer this year, which is like 30 points per week. So we're doing what we can for Cassie, but I think she's going to have to change courses and move to a kind of an easier course. So
we could make a league of one just for Cassie.
She wins every week.
Yeah, exactly. All right, this is a challenge, Cassie. You got to refocus, come back stronger next year, prove that you belong in our top tier league.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our fourth matchup of the week, where we have fifth. Sorry, Aaron against Scott. You already know how this went with our Poopy Football Award winner getting crushed by Scott, 100-62. This one barely deserves talking about when our winner in this landslide only had 100 points. Both teams. I mean, we barely had an 100-point score between these two. Let's look at Scott's side first of all. I mean, 100 points is nothing to be happy about. Starting Kamari Dike, who had negative fantasy points this week. That's always a great start. 1 reception and a lost fumble. And, I mean, Trey McBride, Scott's top scorer, been his second highest score on most weeks because, as well, Jonathan Taylor, of course, has been carrying him. But maybe Scott just cannot survive when Jonathan Taylor is down to the 15-point mark instead of the 25-plus point mark. I mean, without Trey McBride and Jonathan Taylor in a week where nobody was on bye, is Scott going to be able to survive without these guys each getting 30-plus points if he does manage to make the playoffs? And over on Aaron's side, I mean, Lamar Jackson, 3 weeks in a row. These are 3 of his worst 4 fantasy weeks of his career. The past 3 weeks. It has truly been terrible. So you can't blame Aaron too much. It's just sort of some funny callback to the draft where everybody knew Aaron was going to draft Lamar, and he did. But there's no excuses here. Aaron started Pat Freiermuth this week, who didn't even get a target. Started Calvin Austin on Pittsburgh, who just didn't even get a target. Sitting Kamani Vidal, the actual starting running back this week on the Chargers, and you had much better options. Even throw in Hollywood Brown over these 2 terrible starts. So this one is on you, Aaron. You could have pulled yourself out of the dumpster, and you did not. What do you say to that, Mr. Whiffin?
Well, I'll leave Aaron for second because it's much juicier. Scott is a big lane. Scott's a big lane. Lane is someone who seems like he should be good at math. I think he's coasted kind of for a while now and isn't used to making like big moves, like trying hard and stuff. Scott hasn't made any trades, and it's just like he's trying, but he's more dinking and dunking around the outside. So Scott, you need to focus and try a little harder and kind of like work on your fantasy football habits. Aaron, on the other hand, Aaron is a Maggie, and I'm concealing the name for obvious reasons. Maggie is a student that I had whose dad's arms and legs got cut off in a factory accident, and she was obviously unable to focus in class because she had a lot of stuff going on in her personal life. Now, Aaron just had a baby. I compare that to having a father whose arms and legs got cut off, where now he's not able to focus as much on what's going on in fantasy football. So that's what I would put this, what I would amount this to. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. More than capable, but just has other stuff going on in his life.
All right, I will take a drink to that, and I will move on to our sixth matchup, where we have Sean against yourself, Nick.
Yeah.
And well, this one, you needed to fade 15 points from Hunter Henry and Ramondre Stevenson tonight. And clearly that was never going to happen with Sean taking this down 134 to 123. Hunter Henry and Ramondre Stevenson did much more than that. They got 11 points each to get this 10-point victory for Sean. Another underdog winning this one. And I mean, let's go over and look at your side, Nick. Clearly, your whole problem is not doing good enough kicker and defense research. Everyone else on your roster, you know what, was actually totally consistent. Not great, but totally good. Devontae Adams has touchdowns in like 6 straight weeks now. He's your top player, it turns out. But not much more you could have done, I guess, other than, maybe, you didn't even make that bad of a quarterback start this week. You're going to keep flip-flopping and hurting yourself over the quarterback choices. But you got to do better kicker and defense research on the other side. We've got Sean. Dak Prescott is going to continue tearing it up through the playoffs. That Dak and George Pickens stack looking real nice. And even in a Jackson Smith and Jigba light week, his JSN's worst week by far, JSN's worst week below 13 points. He only got 4 points this week. It didn't even matter because Sean has 2 of the most consistent players in fantasy this year, with Bijan Robinson scoring 30 for the top running back score on the week. Sean has this consistent floor that is going to be tough to beat if you ever have a weak against him. Mr. Whiffin, what do you say to that?
Well, Sean, so the thing that stuck out to me most is that Sean has made, do you know how many moves he's made all year, Ben?
I'm going to guess 0.
The answer is 1.
Yeah,
it was close.
Must have been a real good move.
Sean has made 1 move all year. That is the most Marcus thing I have ever seen. Marcus is a student in my essential math class who came to class like once a week, but like absorbed everything in a week and then just like did well on tests. Putting in minimal effort, but has all the understanding there. He knows he doesn't need to make moves because he's got a great team. Destined for 4th, though. I'll put it out there. Sean is destined for 4th.
Always.
Me, I don't know. This was tough to do, honestly. I when I turned the microscope on myself, I don't really know how to do that. But I gave myself an Anthony. All right, so Anthony is someone who's good enough, but has trouble on the details. Where it's like, yeah, like you said, the kicker and the defense, tough to do. I like to just keep the same defense all year because it's minimal hassle. That's something I could probably improve. Same with kicker. You can just drop those people and pick them up the next week and have a equally good chance, if not better, of succeeding. So that's where I would put myself.
And at the very least, you inflate your moves made to show people that you're involved. So that's really the most important aspect of that. That's why Eddie does that every week. All right. Great analysis, Anthony. Let's move on to our final matchup of the week, where we had a truly exciting one. I thought this would be our tight butthole. It was a tight butthole for those involved, I'm sure, as Eddie against Sarah went down to the Monday Night Football wire, with Eddie's Patriot-loaded team starting off strong tonight, but then completely gave up. And he lost to Sarah for a huge win for her as well. Another underdog victory, 129 to 120. And let's zoom right in on those Patriots on Eddie's team. He got 24 points from Drake May. A good game. It could have been a lot better. He could have rushed in a rushing touchdown. He could have thrown another touchdown. Any of those would have been good enough to put him over the edge. Look at Travion Henderson. He had 11 points, but for some reason they gave a whole bunch of run back to Ramondre Stevenson this week, and Travion just could not punch in a touchdown. And then Stephon Diggs only got 3 catches this week. The ball was just going all around to all the different Patriots receivers. Nobody catching more than 4 passes. And that is a week where it is just not going to be enough. Eddie just needed a little bit more from somebody, but it could not overcome Sarah's probably trade of the year, getting Jameson Williams, 26 points, her leading scorer. And now with Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out for a few weeks, with Detroit playing all of their games inside, he is looking like he's going to be on fire through the fantasy playoffs, along with CeeDee Lamb, who is now stepping up back to his original self. And the highlight of the week for Sarah is Zach Ertz. 10 receptions for 106 reception yards. Not bad for the 35-plus-year-old, overcoming Zay Flowers' terrible 0.6 point showing. Nick, how about these students?
Man, two great students going about it in different ways. So Eddie is I taught a Will last year who was intent on, like, I presented him. He was clearly like doing well in math, so I gave him some calculus problems, taught him how to do derivative, and he would just sit at his desk doing derivatives while he was missing the lesson on what was going on right now. So I give Eddie that. I give Eddie a Will because he's so far ahead in his brain. He drafts so many rookies and picks up all these rookies, and he's doing all this stuff. Might miss out on just cashing in on people now. Obviously, Eddie's doing great. He's in second place, maybe first place after this week. I'm not sure. But that's what I give Eddie. Sarah is a big Miriam. So Miriam is someone who is very smart, but and wants to do well, but her strategy for succeeding is hanging out with people who do well in fantasy football. So I'm just describing that to hang out with you. But I would actually, interestingly, give her more of a Ben Davis Purcell, because if I recall in undergrad, your strategy was hanging out with people who understood stuff really well, and then
And just copying them and cheating the whole time.
Not copying them and cheating the whole time, but you know.
Hey, isn't that why you hung out with me?
No.
Oh,
But then it ended up working for you. Like you work with someone who understands it, and then you end up understanding it yourself, which is what I'm trying to like get at there. So that would give her a Miriam.
I agree. Sarah is definitely a classic Miriam, and all of that research by osmosis is starting to pay off, where, you know, I think as we move in to look at our standings with only 1 week left, as Sarah moves to 8-5 with this win, Sarah is going to finish with a guaranteed winning record. In fact, I think this is going to be the best record that Sarah will have ever finished with in the league. So she's moving up and up as we get into our standings. we're ahead of Yahoo right now. I can even refresh the page, and I'm sure they have not updated the standings yet. So that means we have to do our own quick maths, if you're British, on our own. All 4 8-4 teams coming into this week lost. All 3 7-5 teams won. So we have a ridiculous 7-way 8-5 tie. This is the closest the league has ever been by far. Unprecedented. I've never seen this before. We have a clear top 7 of 8-5 teams. I'm not going to do the calculations of who's got the most points or not. I presume that Eddie will be on top, closely followed by Sean and Daniel, and then maybe myself. No, Nick will probably still be ahead of me. Brandon will definitely be ahead of me. So it's going to be a tight. I'll probably be down there in 7th. All these teams, Daniel, Eddie, Nick, myself, Sean, Brandon, and Sarah, are going to be in the top 7 solidly with 8-5. Nothing more to talk about here except, Nick, what do you think about this?
Man, all I know is that, well, we have the top 6 there above 1,600, and then it's 2 people below, like 200 points below.
It is
I
quite
don't
the
want to
split.
be.
Yeah.
I just know I don't want to be in that bottom 7-8 spot. That's where I don't want to be.
Right. Yeah. Hitting the 7th. I mean, all it takes is one loss, and then you could still be good 0.4 and end up down in the 7th spot there.
Yep.
And which leads us into our 3 6-6 teams. Only one of them won this week, and that would be Scott. So Scott's going to move to 7-6, which means some big points by him next week and a loss by Sarah, who's by far our lowest points for team in the top 7, would vault Scott ahead of her for a secure spot in the playoffs. Because remember, the 8th spot goes to the team with the most points overall after the top 7. Our current leader for that is Christine, with whoever doesn't make it between Sarah and Scott the most likely to take it. However, Jason, Aaron, and even Mike and Brent are still live for final points for spot with a massive week in week 14. Sorry, anything could happen if they get some big weeks. As Nick starts to drive away in his truck or whatever he's doing, making that noise there. I don't know what's going on. But unfortunately, as he always is on his way out, our guest is not a bringer of optimism. Nick, I hear you have something to say about our bottom 5 teams.
Yeah, who do you want me to talk about first here, Ben?
Well, sitting at the bottom here with Scott getting this win, with Christine still having a solid points 4, we've got our bottom 4 easily filled out. Our bottom 5, I should say, with Aaron, Jason, Mike, Brent, and Cassie. So in that order, Aaron is first.
Well, Ben, it's sad to say. Listen, life and death are intertwined. As some die, others are born to take their place. Winter comes, and spring comes to bring new life. As Aaron's daughter was born, his fantasy team faded. And as he continued to commit more time to raising his newborn daughter, he neglected his fantasy team. That's what I have to say.
And now he is fading away into the distance, looking ahead for next year when his daughter is 1 year older and his fantasy decisions might be 1 year wiser. Jason also is fading away. What do you have to say about those fear boners?
Well, Jason doesn't have the excuse of having a child. You know what? I don't know. Jason died as he lived. So,
You know what we can say about Jason is he loves taking a beating. Most points against in the league so far, at least.
Yeah.
Moving on to Mike.
Yep. So, well, what I have to say about Mike is that life and death are intertwined. As some die, others are born to take their place. Winter comes, and spring continues to bring new life. As Mike has continued to raise kids, his fantasy team has continued to get shittier. So that's what I have to say about Mike.
All right. I think we see a trend here. Moving us on to Brent.
All right, what I have to say about Brent is that life and death are intertwined. As some die, others take their place. Winter comes and spring comes to bring new life. As Brent has continued to raise his children, his fantasy team has faded into oblivion. So that's what I have to say about Brent.
An expanding family, nonetheless, overlapping with the deflating fantasy team, which brings us to those not so handsome boys.
Yeah, so I don't know. Do Cassie and Jason have a child hidden? Because I don't. They're both acting as if they have already have kids. Aaron, Brent, and Mike have an excuse. So yeah, Cassie died as she lived in fantasy football, handsome and with minimal effort. Cassie though beat Jason and Christine this year. So that's all that she could ever ask for. I think those are probably the two people she wanted to beat most. And I think that, she can be happy with those realistic expectations for the year.
Sometimes you turn it on when it counts. Those are the eulogies for the 5 teams that Nick is declaring out. However, you're not fully officially out of it yet, but Nick said it. So when Mr. Whiffin speaks, everybody listens. Let's take a quick look at our Week 14 matchups, I should say, as we go ahead to this next week. Who are we going to be playing? Who is going to matter? And well, if we look at this, as I talk about our buys for next week, we have 4 more teams on bye for Week 14. What a way to close out the playoffs. The Panthers, the Patriots, the Giants, and the 49ers. And so that's like Eddie's full team. So man, I'm glad to be playing him next week. On the other hand, in those critical matchups, we already highlighted Scott and Sarah. Sarah will be taking on those handsomer boys, while Scott has to play Nick. Some intense matchups coming up. I'm not going to say who's easier for one or the other. Anything can happen, but we got a lot riding on these few games as we look at that schedule. And are definitely some good waiver ads this week. I will just quickly fire them off because we've been running on for a while. If you need a quarterback, we can fire over looking at the top quarterbacks. Don't play J.J. McCarthy unless you really hate yourself. Tyrod Taylor is a decent play. Going over to wide receiver, you can look at these top projected points for next week, but I think some good pickups are A.D. Mitchell, the apparent new starting receiver on the Jets. Isaac Tesla, who could be the new wide receiver 2 on Detroit, while Amon-Ra St. Brown is injured, and Devon Vele, who went off for like 20 points as well, the wide receiver 2 on the Saints. If we go to running back, I would not recommend a single running back on the waiver wire. They all suck. At tight end, Nick, for some reason, dropped Kyle Pitts, and that's the only person that Kirk Cousins knows how to throw to, so he's worth a pick up and start. But don't do that because I'll probably need a tight end because Dalton Kincaid is just perennially injured. And then on defense, you can play Tennessee against Cleveland and Shadir Sanders, or you can play Washington or Minnesota, who are playing each other, and both of them have terrible quarterbacks, although Marcus Mariota is probably better than J.J. McCarthy. So maybe you want to lean Washington in that way. And that's it. We'll finish things off with that. Week 13 is over. There's only one regular season week left. It all comes down to this. At the very least, this is the last real and fake $10 to fight over. So battle it out hard. As Brent proved this week, anyone can win on any week. Nick, thank you so much for coming on. You're an inspiring guest, as always. Any final words?
No, I just look forward to how this playoff picture shakes out. Like a lot of great teams out this year. I'm worried. I think that a lot of people have a chance to make the playoffs based on how they do in the last week, and a lot of people have a chance to get eliminated in the first round. So it should be a super frothy year, as they say in the investing community. It's frothy. I think people could go up or down.
Well, that's why I don't invest, because I have no idea what you're talking about. And with that, good luck, everybody. Don't forget to set your lineups. Thank you for listening, and see you next week for the playoffs.